What we are trying to do is show that this is a nucleus and this is the beginning of something that's going to contend in the Eastern Conference for years to come. That this is going to be something that you might not have to be afraid of us right now, but you certainly have to account for us on your schedule, and you know when you're going to be facing the Pistons. What is going on? I want to welcome you from Half Court for today, Wednesday, July 20th, year of our Lord 2022. I'm your host, Sean Murphy, alongside my guy, as always, the Robin to my Batman, the Bane to my Christian Bale's Batman, my boy, Jeff. Frady. Jeff, how's it going, brother?
Oh, it couldn't go any better, Sean. You see what I'm doing right now. You see what I got. These aren't, and real quickly, before we get the comments, these aren't $1,000 buffs. So I got a couple of those comments that I want. Those aren't available.
He's so humble.
Dude, can I just tell
nice glasses? What's up, Sean?
Jeff, I don't want to put you on the spot here too much. However, I do remember in particular when we got these buffs, we were looking at each other. You were like, man, these are really nice. I feel like these are solid buffs. And I was like,
they look nice.
I was like, Jeff, I hate to break it to you, but I think these aren't more than $6. We go online and we find that they're in that $5 to $6 range. And it's like, hey, we make them look like $1 million.
Hey,
so they got value to us.
Your boy will take what he can get. So I like it.
Oh, most certainly. But also joined by one of my best friends, one of my guys, one of my OG partners in crime, my guy, Troy Sergey. Troy, good to see you as always, my friend.
Good to see you, Sean. Good to see you, man. No summer league anymore, no draft, no NBA finals. This is like, I'm having like withdrawals of NBA content right now. I'm serious, guys.
Life feels empty, man. Like,
you know what my life has been, guys, is watching WNBA basketball. That's what my life has been like the past couple of days.
I mean, hey, there's some good basketball being played there, man.
There is, but it's just not the same as NBA. I hate to say it.
It's not. I mean, it's okay to acknowledge. Now, Troy, I do have something that I want to get into with you in a minute. In particular, there's something I wanna shout out in particular. But before we get there, we gotta acknowledge that we have one of my guys on the pod today. Not just anybody, but we have the godfather of Woodward Pistons, the OG of Pistons Twitter, best friends with the Cade Crusader. KoolAid.
Hey, what's up?
What's
up?
What's going on, brother? You know,
I had to he let me borrow his mask for the night.
Man.
Yeah, you know.
Oh my gosh. KoolAid, you know, I was literally watching from when you first came on the pod a couple weeks ago. And I remember specifically like just going, man, how long it's been since you've been on the pod, and that we needed to make this happen. So dude, thank you so much. Thank you so much for coming through, for making extra time, for being here. And dude, it's just good to see you as always, my guy. So
hey man, look, bro, man, don't be like that. We talk like every day.
Hey, I know we do. I know. And that's why it's weird. It's like my guest, but also like a guy that's like one of my closest friends. But like, yeah, man, it's just a cool vibe, man. But I mean, hey, we had to bring the Woodward Pistons trio and the crew to From Half Court as well. And it's never bad to be joined by my guy Troy as well. But Troy, I got to start with specifically a video that you sent to the group chat the other night. And this was something that I have been talking about for a while, because this video is one of my favorite things to exist. You know exactly what video it is. So as I'm working on getting it pulled up, do you want to explain and give a little context to this video I'm talking about?
Yeah. You're talking about
your high school basketball highlight.
Oh no. I was talking about Skip Bayless, Cade Cunningham, 2021 March Madness. Yeah. So I'm from the Upper Peninsula of Michigan, and there's a big rivalry, Marquette versus Negaunee. And Negaunee is a small town, but it's a huge basketball house. They worship basketball in this little town. And then I live in the biggest city, just about 12 miles down the road, and we played each other. There's a trophy that we get. It's kind of it's like the Victor's Cup, it's called. So the winner gets passed on every year. And my senior year, we were playing in Negaunee, and it was a good game. We lost, but I hit a shot from the corner to tie the game up with about 3 minutes left.
Hey.
And I was so pumped that I jumped up, and I didn't fall on my feet. I fell on my back, and it's pretty funny. You have to bring it up, Sean.
Oh, Troy, I think I can manage. Let me, I think I could pull that up. Oh, wait, here it is. Specifically, here we have.
Quiet later. Pretty boy Sergey from the corner, and he ties this game up. Maybe he should have tied his shoes too.
Let's go.
Oh,
That's
my
to
God.
say, school the next day was rough. School the next day was rough, guys. Everyone watched that clip. Everyone watched. Like, that was trending in the morning show, the evening show, the late night show. Like, every UP news station was playing that clip over and over and over again.
So would you say it's more famous or infamous?
Infamous.
So this is a meme up in the UP.
Yeah, and hey, Sean, if you keep it paused right there, you see the gentleman in the back with the camera kind of blurry.
Yeah.
I have his angle on my phone too. I'll have to show in the group chat later. It's the same video, obviously, but it's from his angle at the back, and it's just as funny. So I'll have to send that one too. So from his camera.
Hey,
Well, that's
he got
beautiful.
back
I'm
on
definitely got
defense,
to check that out.
Yeah.
Oh my
He got
God.
back on defense, though. I got to give you credit.
Yeah, got back
hustled,
on
man.
D. So it was
You
good.
hustled.
Well, also, here's the other piece of it as well. Let's just watch this one more time. Just the jump shot. That's wet. That jump shot is wetter than the Mississippi. That
It looks
jump
like I
shot.
taught Troy myself.
That jump shot is providing wells in Africa so that people have access to clean drinking water. That is a clinical jump shot right there. So that's the reason why I call that guy Marquette Dirk.
I think it has more of an Irsan Ilyasova vibe to it. But hey, I like Dirk too.
You definitely in high school you definitely had the Ursan Ilyasova hair without a doubt.
Yeah, I got compared to Kyle Korver too from the three land. So it was, I
Kyle
love
Korver. Oh,
gotta
goodness.
love shooters.
Goodness gracious.
Talk about a nostalgic throwback, man. Kyle
man.
Korver.
Yeah.
Man, we got to get a from half court ex Woodward Pistons hoop session, man. We got to get Troy out there hitting jumpers.
Maybe a 2-on-2 session. That'd be fun.
Good.
That'd be
Let's do
excellent.
it.
I'd love that, guys.
Oh,
People want it.
Let's rock.
Oh, we're gonna make it happen, and it's gonna happen. We might have to play. We have to play half court rules just for the meme of it, because this is from half court. Where each and every week we talk all things NBA basketball. If you like that, be sure to like this video, subscribe to the channel, share with your friends, and join the conversation in the comments section down below. Also, be sure that you're subscribing and going over to Woodward Pistons so you're catching more content over there with Jeff on the Woodward Pistons podcast, myself and Kool-Aid throwing it down on those table talks, man. There's always stuff you got to be checking out over there. So be sure you're subscribing to Woodward Pistons. But speaking of Pistons, because there are few, I would feel pretty confident that right now, the four people that we have assembled, I would put this panel in Pistons talk against anybody in the state of Michigan. I feel confident about what we have right here. And so with that, let's start the show talking some Pistons, man. I mean, Kool-Aid, you know, if people don't know, first of all, if you don't know, now you know. But in addition, we have been doing draft content for months. We have been leading up, getting ready for everything that was going to happen this summer. And now, just like that, the summer is pretty much come and gone as far as all the big moves that Detroit could make. So you never know. Troy Weaver could very much still have those phones active and make some trades leading up to the deadline day. But Kool-Aid, I want to start with you, man. What were your thoughts on everything that went down this summer? How are you feeling today about where the Pistons are going forward, and what kind of expectations are you having personally coming up this season?
Hold on, say that one more time, buddy. One more time.
Oh no, you're good. You're good. You're good. You're good. I'll start with Jeff. I know I saw you had some stuff come your way. I'll start with Jeff, my guy. Jeff, you and I have been talking about all sorts of Pistons. How are you feeling right now, man?
Dude, I'm feeling good. It's a lot to look forward to. I think we talk about this too. It's weird to have expectations, and it's kind of hard to project these guys because they're all so young. You need Jaden Ivey to play his rookie season. Same with Jalen Duren. We're expecting a lot out of Cade Cunningham. So ultimately, the ceiling of this team is up to them. Like, it's up to their player development. So for me, my expectations is you got to get, I know there's some over-unders rumored. I don't know confirmation on them, but, around 26, 27 wins. They're going to smash that over, and it's because they not only have to, but because last year there were so many injuries, it's hard not to. Like, with the talent they've added, yes, you lost Jerami Grant, but with Jaden Ivey, Sadiq now, and don't forget, like, people say, okay, you lost Jerami Grant. Okay, you lost a 20-point scorer, but Sadiq, Cade, and Jaden are going to get better and better, and they're going to fill that void. So I'm really excited. If I had to put a floor on it, could I do that right now, or should we say
absolutely. That? Let's do floor and ceiling. Like floor wise, like what do you think is a good floor to expect of this team?
So ceiling, I would say, because even last year, if you look at the East last year, the 10th seed, 43 wins, Charlotte Hornets. It's hard for me to say they'll win 40 plus, but if I had to say a ceiling, meaning the best they can do, I would say they get it to 10th seed. I think that would be the best 9th, 10th seed, considering how tough the East is. You got to get at least 40 to even give you in consideration for the play-in tournament. So I'll say 9th or 10th, and the floor would have to be, I mean, it's hard to be any worse than they were last year, but I would say back down near the bottom, top 3 in the East. I mean, I'd be pretty disappointed if you're right back near the bottom again, considering who they've added.
Yeah. I mean, it's one of those situations that going into the season, ideally, that's not where you want to be. But when you look at the youth of this roster, you have to acknowledge it as a possibility. Mm-hmm. And with that, Kool-Aid, I know we just had some work snafu. People were coming at you. It was like the perfect storm being thrown there at you all at once.
Man. It was. Yeah, I think we got it all figured out.
Yeah.
It was. Yeah. It's figured out now.
Yeah, for sure. But talking about floor and ceiling and where the team's going, how are you feeling today about what the Pistons are doing, man?
Look, obviously excited and happy and approving of the direction the team is going in. I think that Jeff raises a good point as it relates to the youth of this team. You can't really account for it. We don't know what's going to happen. We don't know if there's defenses and schemes and things of that nature that can just get these players a little confused, especially when most of what they're going to be doing is repetitious stuff, things that they're hoping to rely on. The defense are going to scheme to basically take that away from them. So just from a basketball standpoint, it can be rough. I remember as a senior in high school feeling really, 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 really good about myself coming off that Class C, all state, and then hitting college. Like, what is this? What kind of basketball is this? It's just different. And it's not that they're playing a different brand of it. It's just terminology is different. The speed is different. We saw Jaden Ivey and Jalen Duren play in Summer League. Now they have to go up against NBA speed, NBA physicality. And when Jalen Duren has been seen to be matched up with, his peers, in college, he's showing that he's worthy of the pick that he has, but we got to make sure that he's going to continue that motor consistently throughout the game. So
I think you saw a lot of area to grow for him too, though, especially in that third game when he was really the focal point, when it was, guys like Buddy Boeheim and Braxton Key, they're primarily playing minutes with him. Luckily for Duren, he's never going to have to be the number one guy for this team, ideally, ever. But having said that, when you do get those primary touches, it does show kind of like where your game's at. And the biggest thing with him, I know boxing out is going to be a big thing. A lot of people talk, he probably didn't really have to do that because of his body. He probably was just, boxing people out naturally. So there's certainly areas he's going to have to grow. But I mean, with that, like floor and ceiling, like, what do you think are some healthy parameters that you're setting for like expectations this year?
Yeah, I think that I believe that this team is definitely going to be better than last year. I don't believe their floor is going to be as bad as we've seen it game-wise. Now, we know we can look at last season and say, hey, we recognize why the wins were as low as they were. But the more and more I kind of look at this thing, I don't want to drink too much of the Kool-Aid, but I do believe they should be competing for more than just a play-in. I do. I see how some of these other people in media and things are starting to look at the Pistons and talk about the Pistons from a national perspective. And it's not that we get our points from them, but we've all tried to sit here and say, you know what, maybe we should be tempering our expectations. But I don't know, man. Kay Cunningham, we sit here and we say he should be competing for all-star appearance in his second season. If that's the case, this team should be competing for a playoff spot.
Yeah.
So that's it. The floor. I'm looking for a solid 30 wins on the floor. On the up, be competing for that 8th spot.
Yeah, I agree with that 100%. And Troy, I know from conversations before, I think the cool thing is that with everyone here, with Jeff and Kool-Aid, I've been able to get to know you guys quite a bit throughout this year. But Troy, a really cool piece of our friendship is that you and I, our friendship's been circled around basketball and around Pistons for quite a few years now. And we met each other back in a dark era of Pistons basketball. So I know,
Smith
right?
Era,
I know.
Marcus Morris. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Hey, the golden days, man.
Yeah.
Yep. Ish Smith, our greatest point guard we've ever had. But with that, Troy, how are you feeling as far as floor and ceiling and what gets you excited about this team coming into this season? Because there's a lot.
By going last, I think a lot of the guys really hit it already. But I would say that the two big things that I'm high on, guys, is Jalen Duren and Jaden Ivey, just because they just bring a different element to this team. And I think quickness, we talked about that, and the physicality, I'm glad Kool-Aid brought up. We saw him play in the Summer League. That was Summer League competition, but now we got to do it against the big guys. That's going to be, I think, of a challenge for him at first, but I have a lot of confidence in him. I have a lot of confidence in how he can shoot the ball, how he can space the floor, how he can facilitate. I might be one of the biggest Jaden Ivey guys in this room. So my floor is going to actually be 35 wins. And my ceiling is going to be, as much as I would want to say an 8th seed, I'm going to say a 9th seed.
Yeah, that's valid. I mean, because when you look at where like that Eastern Conference is at, I mean, when you look at the competition that was in that play-in tournament, I mean, let's remind ourselves the 4 teams that were in that play-in tournament last year were the Brooklyn Nets, the Atlanta Hawks, the Indiana Pacers, the Charlotte Hornets, and the Cleveland Cavaliers. Man, I mean, it was a very difficult, play-in run to have to get through, and then that's not counting teams that were in that area or in that conversation. The Bulls were in conversation for the play-in spot. The Raptors at one point were in the play-in spot. At the beginning of the season, the Celtics would have been a play-in team before the new year. So, like, when looking at all of those different teams that are in conversation, and that's not even talking about like what the Knicks could do. That's not even talking about like what the Nets could do. It's not even getting into like how the Heat could possibly improve. Like the Eastern Conference is just at this insanely stacked point. But the thing that's like that makes me comfortable is the fact that I no longer am looking at the Pistons on a night-to-night basis on when they match up, and talent is no longer my concern. Like when I see us match up against almost any team in the league, I think we have enough talent on a night-to-night basis to get wins. But it's going to be how do we take that talent and mold it and mend it with experience and with actual reps and because talent is something that very much can be an on paper thing. It could be something that going into a game, it's like, well, this team's insanely talented, but we've seen a lot of teams that have a lot of talent that have sucked at basketball. So, we know that a lot of it's going to be the mental fortitude and like what they bring to that side of the game. And I do think that a realistic floor for them, my floor is 30 wins for this team. I'm right along in that thinking because there has to be some form of forward direction or progression within the rebuild. Even though like this year isn't about us becoming a contender in the Eastern Conference, like we're not going out there trying to like go 82-0 and like make a playoff run or anything like that. What we are trying to do is show that this is a nucleus and this is the beginning of something that's going to contend in the Eastern Conference for years to come. that this is going to be something that you might not have to be afraid of us right now, but you certainly have to account for us on your schedule, and when you're going to be facing the Pistons. So to me, like when I look at what to expect and what to hope for going into this season, I think it's just more of that, more of teams, being afraid to have to face us. And hopefully I want to see us possibly, split or even win some season series against some of these really prominent teams in both conferences. Like if we could split a series with the Milwaukee Bucks and the Miami Heat this year, who's not going to be impressed?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. And part of me wonders too, Sean, if the roster that we have in mid-October is going to be the same roster that we see at the end of February. What I mean by that is trades. Seriously, guys, trades and bringing in, you mentioned a veteran piece that I think, like you said, you don't have any worry about talent. It's about experience. It's about guys who can bring in. And I just feel like the league right now, we've talked so much about how deep the league is right now. I just feel like all 30 teams have someone to offer. And I feel like all 30 teams have at least one guy that could help our team, right? Mm-hmm. So that's kind of where my head is at too, a little bit, that I don't think we as Pistons fans talk enough about.
And I think too, real quick, also this year is also a way for Troy to kind of identify, to test the waters a little bit, because you get to see what you have. Mm-hmm. Like before you decide, okay, we need to go out and get an X, whoever the player is. You get to see, are these guys ready to play? And not only that, but can they close games? Like you have to get these guys acclimated to the NBA, of course, with Jaden Ivey and Jalen Duren. But the interesting part is throughout these years is every year you're adding key players. You added Sadiq and Isaiah Stewart. They had to learn, and Killian Hayes, of course, they had to learn to play together. Then in the year after, you drop Cade. And then the year after, you drop Jaden. Like they've had to learn one by one. And now with Jaden Ivey, everyone has to learn how to play with Jaden Ivey. Like you got to give these guys time, because once you've got your core together and they can build on seasons playing together, that's where you become dangerous. Like these guys not only know how to close games, but they know everyone's strengths. They know everybody's weaknesses. And then Troy can be like, all right, you know what? Let's go get the big fish, and let's tie this whole thing together. So this year is a big test for everybody to measure everybody.
Yeah, and more to that point, into what Troy was saying, Troy being true to his name. Obviously the Pistons with Troy Weaver, trade deadline is his season. It's almost his preseason, because he gets busy in that draft, man. But he really does. He really does. But this is the most interesting thing about this team this season. I was really thinking about this earlier. Is that I think this is the first time that they don't really have viable trade candidates except for people in their actual young core.
Yeah.
All the other years before, they had other pieces that you knew, okay, they could be movable. And there are some movable assets, but I don't think that they're as
they're not movable assets that teams are seeking. Like we could move Corey Joseph, but no team's going to call us saying, hey, what's it going to take to get Corey Joseph over here?
Right. Noel, Knox. These aren't the guys that are going to turn into Marvin Bagley, like Lyles and Josh Jackson, who Josh Jackson had to prove for a couple years too that, I'm serviceable at best, So those things matter. And this year it's going to be interesting, because if they do trade somebody, to Troy's point, to Just' point, I almost felt like it's going to be somebody who can help move this team in a forward direction, like Marvin Bagley. I don't see any more, trades that are just going for the future. Oh, let's see what we can get for this pick later. And Troy he's really avoided those types of deals. Even with Christian Wood, he avoided those types of deals until he can get to the draft, see the landscape, know where his guys are, and know, all right, yep, I can go there and identify them. So, great points by you guys, definitely.
Yeah. And that is kind of the fun thing of, you truly have to wonder what kind of move can be under his sleeve, going into that point, because, it can truly be anything. Like you said, it could be someone in that young core, like could possibly like a guy like a Killian Hayes, potentially be on the move at some point this season. I mean, not to just keep bringing that name up. Yeah, I know. No, I am catching that drift. Believe me. But I mean, even then, like, it's not just him either. There's other guys like what's Hamidou Diallo's role going to be on this team long term? Like, it's kind of like you really start going like down like the list of names, and like I don't think like people realize, like, even though this is like a team that's like learning to grow together and to like learn to play together and improve together and to win together, this is also a group that's kind of having to compete against each other for jobs and for places in the long-term future of this young core. We just saw it this last year with guys like Frank Jackson, who, going into last year was probably someone that looked like he was in the plans for a while. Now you see what happens. So, I mean, this is you're going to have to see a lot of guys go out there and prove their spot on this core yet again.
So that sounds fun.
Yeah.
That's what you want. No, that's what
is.
you want. You want competition. That's why I respect Troy, and Isaiah Stewart kind of smelled it a little bit too. And that's why Isaiah Stewart developed that 3-point shot. And now you can play him in multiple positions. So the guys, they all have the work ethic. When we talk about Sadiq Bey, having Isaiah Livers, like, yes, having a guy like Isaiah Livers, knowing you have more guys like Isaiah and Sadiq Bey makes you more comfortable. But man, these guys playing together, there's so much talent here, and you have to see, like, you don't even know what you have in a lot of these guys too. Like you mentioned, Killian, it's a make or break year for him. Isaiah Livers, you don't know what to expect out of him. He could be a significant role player this year, or he might be a year away from that. So once you know what you have, these decisions become so much more easier. They really do. And Troy's going to be ready for him, man. You don't want no one else at the helm but Troy.
Yeah. So it almost becomes like year 2 of this kind of development stuff then, because last year we knew people were complaining early, and we were talking about it like, yo, these guys are working on things. Leave Sadiq alone. Let Cade Cunningham actually get comfortable. Let this guy come back from injury. And this year is going to be them coming in as if, hey, I'm going to knock on wood, a good, clean, productive offseason, a full productive training camp and everything, full productive practices, preseasons, and that these guys can come into this season and really not look to be trying to put it together, but being able to build on the core that you already have. They have a core. And with Cade Cunningham being this connector, it's not like he has to come in year 2 and try to figure things out. It's just, Jaden Ivey, Jalen Duren, the ways that they play, they're very easily integratable into this offense, into this team. And they add things defensively day one. Day one, they're going to add things defensively. Obviously, we want to make sure that they can match up and be there with the physicality. But, this team should be taking a step forward next year, at least as it relates to how they look as a team on the court. It shouldn't look like they're trying to put things together still, especially after how they looked towards the end of last season. When you get more athletic, when you add length, they didn't just add a Ja Morant clone. They added somebody who's actually about an inch and a half taller, could probably still grow. You know what I'm saying? His wingspan, his weight is a little bit bigger. They added somebody who, honestly, if you get that mid-range together, I'm going to keep saying it, reminds me more of Dwayne Wade. Really, they keep saying that over and over and over again.
Yeah, no,
man, let me put down this Kool-Aid real quick.
that Cade Crusader Kool-Aid. I mean, it's hard to look at Jaden Ivey and the way that he plays the game and his explosiveness, his physique, everything that he does. It's hard to not see, hints of Dwayne Wade in there. Even like the speed that he has and the way he can control it. Like watching him in summer league, even that 5 minutes against the Wizards, it honestly took me back to watching a Dwayne Wade game in 2006 and 2007. It honestly felt like a retro performance in that way. And if he can be that type of explosive, dynamic player, I mean, guys, what better, like there are a few better names to be compared to, especially in the athleticism department, than Dwayne Wade.
Right.
So,
right.
Yeah, man. So
one of the most athletic combo guards we've seen in this league.
Yep. Yeah. And I think Dwayne Wade, they all have that it factor in terms of every time they have the basketball, you're tuning in. Like you want to watch them. And I think Jaden Ivey has that. Again, it was summer league, but still that'll translate. Like once the regular season comes, if you're a Pacer fan or a Cavalier fan and you're watching the Pistons versus the Cavaliers, whoever it is, you're watching Jaden Ivey too. Like he's entertaining and he's dynamic. We've been echoing that since the day he got drafted and before the draft process. So
guys,
I'm just excited to have him.
I have a question because what excites me is Killian potentially doing some pick and rolls with Jalen Duren, and the backside has to help. And he could toss it up to either Hami or Ivy. What's our all-athletic team? I don't mean to just, you know what I'm saying, hijack, but it just excites me, man.
Yeah.
Like, what's our all-athletic team? Like,
well, Hami and Ivy are that's it.
Yeah. I feel like Duren deserves a spot in there.
Duren.
Yeah, he might. Marvin Bagley, I could make an argument for the all-athlete team.
I think Liver's got a little more bounce to him than people think as well, too. I think he's more athletic. He hasn't really displayed it, but in Summer League, there were some moments where I'm like, damn.
That's a sneaky good
Liver's got some bounce to him, too.
I feel like long-term Cade might have a little something going the next couple of years.
I was gonna say, I know he's not known for being like a natural athlete, but like he's still a hell of an athlete.
Oh yeah, absolutely. His game, I don't think he's more athletic than what he presents in his game. Like he could be more athletic. He's just a smart player. High IQ.
So the Pistons all athletic team. Do we go with Cade, Ivy, Tommy, Bagley, Duran?
Yeah, I'm fine with that.
I think that's it.
I'm cool with that.
Is that a good 5? Let us know your Pistons all athletic team in the comments down below. That's a really good question. I like that, Kool-Aid. But speaking of all athletic, speaking of players that are known as connectors, Russell Westbrook from the Los Angeles Lakers.
You're laughing at Adam right now. I know.
Sean, there's for every connector, there's a disconnector.
Yeah, right.
There's an equal and an opposite, right?
Yeah.
Oh, 100.
Hey,
yeah, that's him.
I genuinely love you guys, and you too, Troy, man. Like for real.
No, real quick, I gotta ask you guys too. Did you see that Jerami Shohan that talking about Westbrook? And they're like Westbrook, and they were playing like a game where they had to describe players and stuff. And he said Westbrook, and he said bricks, or he said something like that, bricks. And it was like a rookie in this year's class. And I'm like, damn, even the rookies, like they get the narrative coming in. Russell, hey, he hearing all that talk. I bet. And I think Shohan came out with a apology afterwards too. I saw on ESPN. So Russell Westbrook, as much as I give you some shots, I respect him. All right, he's still a Hall of Famer, but he is a disconnector though for the Lakers.
Mm-hmm. And apparently there's a genuine disconnect as to what the is going on with this guy, because earlier today, as of recording, there have been some reports that that it was looking like Russell Westbrook and the Lakers are heading towards an inevitable divorce. And that was per Jovan Buha, which is the Lakers beat writer for The Athletic. But then you had Chris Haynes coming out today with his reporting specifically that around the summer league or during the summer league, LeBron, Russ, and Anthony Davis huddled up in a phone conversation amid recent uncertainty and are vowing to make it work, per Chris Haynes. And this sparked, I'm not going to lie, my favorite thing that happens on NBA Twitter. And it is Lakers fan spaces where they have to talk each other off the ledge, because everybody was freaking out because it was like, we're not getting Kyrie. We're making these guys run it back. I mean, like, man, I just want to make sure I'm not crazy here. I just want to make sure I'm not nuts. Man. Is there a world where they keep these guys together next year and it goes well?
You know what this tells me? You know what this tells me right here? This, what you're saying in a situation of them meeting together, that tells me that LeBron and AD are sitting there like, okay, we're probably not trading Russell. This isn't happening. Because if he was traded, they'd be the first to welcome Kyrie. I'll tell you that.
Right.
And since they're not getting a deal for Russell, they're like, all right, we're probably going to have to play with him. He was kind of targeted a lot more, deservedly so, but he was the brunt of everything and through the season, the offseason. Let's make up and say, together we'll win. But then watch, a couple weeks from now, they'll find a deal for Russell. Like, it just, I get it from a player's perspective. You have to do this with your teammates. You tell them, hey, we're in this together. But let's not lie. LeBron, the reports came out. LeBron was the biggest fan of Kyrie coming to LA. Oh, I wonder who would be involved in that trade package. And so I take these reports with a grain of salt, but still, it's nice to see LeBron's a leader, man. He's going to get these guys together and make sure there's no, tough. There's some tough love in there, but also there's no bad blood. But I don't take anything from it.
Yeah, there's also, and I do want to point out, because I listen. I'm a vehement listener to Hoops Tonight, which used to be called Lakers Tonight on the volume, and apparently there's also reports that if the Lakers gave up that second first-round pick for Kyrie, the trade would have already been done. But I don't know how much I believe that, because when I'm thinking from the Nets perspective, are you meaning to tell me that you're doing everything that you can to try and salvage your relationship with Kevin Durant, and your first move after he makes a trade request is going and getting Russell Westbrook
Right.
in a trade to Brooklyn? The guy he left in Oklahoma City
Yeah.
for a reason? Like, you're telling me that the Nets are going to pull the trigger on that before they trade KD? Of course they're not going to do that.
Yeah, and I just feel like with Russ, I mean, we know he can't play with LeBron. I mean, we've talked about that for months on this podcast. We don't even have to spend a second talking about that. But
I told you that
right,
the day
Sean.
the trade happened. Anyway,
yeah, you're right, Sean. But the Nets too with KD, like I just don't know what team Russ can be on, guys. Like I'm serious. Like the more I think about any team, I just can't think about it. The only thing I can think of is New York Knicks.
Yeah.
I love the laugh after that because it makes sense, like practically, and it doesn't make sense, which also makes sense.
Correct.
That's why it makes sense for the Knicks, because it doesn't make sense.
Everything makes sense for the Knicks. That's why it's a great point, Trey.
Now maybe you can throw Sabonis for Russ straight up and have him go to Sacramento, but I don't know about that, guys.
We'll trade Keegan Murray. No, I'm just joking.
Yeah, the De'Aaron Fox, Russell Westbrook backcourt that we always deserved.
Yeah.
Gosh, what a basketball atrocity. That would literally be the backcourt version of the Pistons, Josh Smith, Greg Monroe.
That's one of those like my eyes. I don't want to watch that, yo.
Talk about
hey, you know what? Shout out to Troy Weaver for taking us completely out of this, even before free agency, like right at the start of it. Like, you know what? Let's just give out our cap space. We have $10 million. We are not going to another summer of Russell Westbrook rumors to the Pistons. Like, get out of here.
Yeah, and that's a guy that was instrumental in the Thunder drafting Russell Westbrook. So it tells you a lot that guy is running away from it.
We've grown a lot because I remember one time talking to Sean a couple of years ago, and he said, Troy, we're in a bad spot. And I said, why are we in a bad spot? He said, because our biggest trade asset is Luke Kennard.
That is a tough spot.
Yeah.
How did Troy Weaver do this?
Again, man, you think about it, and you look at what Troy Weaver took over, and his top assets were Luke Kennard, Svi Mikhailuk, Sekou Doumbouya, and Bruce Brown. Yeah. And that was our core. That was our young core. And now, like that was a reality we lived.
No, this man made chicken salad out of chicken you know what.
Yeah.
So gourmet chef Troy, man, keep cooking.
Yeah, and I keep this around. Shout out to the signing that started it.
Yeah, he really did. He really did. We got to give him credit for credit's deserved.
Hey, he crawled so we all could walk.
Yeah.
He crawled so we all could walk.
Keep going, Sean.
Almost won MIP 2020.
Yeah, he should have. I was one of the guys who said I was on his side for that as well.
Got my cell phone out, man.
What kind of season is he gonna have in Portland, guys? We should talk about that for a few minutes.
I like Jerami's fit in Portland, man.
Yeah,
I like it too.
Now, having said all that, I literally I like his fit in Portland. They're a playing team.
Right.
If they make no more moves right now, they're a playing team. And that's if Dame comes back and is at his apex. If Dame's not back at prime Dame, they're not even a playing team. That's just where I see him.
And I think also you got to look at the West. Like the 10th seed this year won 34 games. So like you're good. They're going to get in the playoffs, Sean. But to your point, like how far in the playoffs? Is it the first round? Is it the second round? I think Jerami will put up similar stats than he did in Detroit. Not 22 points a game, but I think he'll be 18, 19 points per game in Portland. And I think playing with a guy like Dame will just make his game up. They played with each other at Team USA basketball, so there's a little bit of chemistry there. Yeah. But yeah, playing with a dynamic point guard like Dame Lillard, obviously he'll be better. He'll get better looks. He'll get more opportunities and better shots. But I think he's just Jerami, man. He on a great team, Jerami is your third, or even a great team, he's your fourth option. Like in Portland, if he's your second option, it's a tough one. Yeah, that is.
Right.
And I love Jerami.
Right. Yeah, what do you think, Kool-Aid?
Yeah, I was going to say, I agree with that. I believe that Jerami Grant's, the book is still able to be written. I don't think he's an old player. Was he 27, I believe? So I believe he still has the ability to kind of write what his trajectory is going to be over the next few years. Can he be that star player next to, that secondary player next to a star? Well, that's what we're going to figure out. That's what we're going to find out, because it's going to be on him to alleviate a lot of different pressure from Dame. And what I saw specifically, what Portland could be looking at with Jerami Grant is how well Jerami Grant handled pressure down the stretch, how reliable he was on game nights where, specifically that Boston game close towards the All-Star break, where Sadiq and Cade, they weren't necessarily having the best of games towards the end of the game. They were, and Jerami Grant was just able to just mid-range, back to the basket, either get fouled, or
give me the ball.
Or hit the mid-range. And that's, that's what I believe he's going to bring. On one end of the court, he's going to bring reliability and clutch time. And in the other side of the court, he's going to bring versatility on the defense that really Portland hasn't had. The ability to match up with and switch and guard multiple positions and just kind of hound if that's what they need. With Denver, he did some of those things. They kind of made him a specialist in certain areas. So I don't know. I believe that Jerami Grant's going to surprise some people, but it's not going to be world beater stuff. Obviously, Portland is their team needs a little bit more. That was the question I was going to ask, is what do they need to kind of get to the next step? Because they need a third. If McCollum was still, there, I would feel a lot more better about what they're doing. McCollum, Dame, and Jerami Grant, that would have been, with the other pieces they have and the young players, that would have been very, very interesting.
Yeah. I just think they need bucket getters, man. They just need guys that can go out there and they need guys that can alleviate and take some of that pressure off of Dame. Because I think what they did is they took a lot of their weaknesses and flipped them, in the sense that I think this team's going to be way better on the defensive end than they were in seasons past, right? I mean, you got guys like Josh Hart, Gary Payton the second. You got guys like Jerami Grant. You have to be a better defensive team by default, right? You even have guys on your bench like Justice Winslow as well, Anthony. But first of all, Anthony
Shaden
Simon.
Sharp.
Shaden Sharp. We'll talk. I'll get to him in a second. But Anthony Simons. For example, that guy. He's going to be going into year 4. He showed some of that. That jump last season,
big time.
Can he keep that going? Because if he can be that backup guard off the bench and kind of play a Jordan Poole type role for this Warriors team. I mean, for this Trailblazers team, like Jordan Poole did for the Warriors, I think that could definitely take the ceiling up. And like you said, Shaden Sharp, the man of mystery. We saw him play 5 minutes of summer league, still couldn't tell you what this guy is going to look like in the league. I couldn't tell you what his pros are, what his cons are. All I know is he got out there and got injured. So, I mean, is he a factor? Absolutely. But I just question. And again, that's where the pick of Shaden Sharp to Portland both made a lot of sense and no sense at the same time. Because on one hand, it's great that they have this backup contingency plan, but it doesn't seem like the type of draft pick you make when you give Dame a 2-year extension on his Supermax contract that same offseason.
Right.
That's not a win now draft move for a team that's trying to win now. So they're in a precarious situation to me.
Yeah, they need a number 2, and I think that was the number one thing. I was really, you guys hit on it. Kool-Aid kind of hit on it already too. Like, you have Jerami Grant, but we need a solid number 2. Like, if McCollum was there, it's different, and obviously that didn't work out in terms of playoff success. I like Jerami there, great fit. They just need one more guy. Like, one more guy that can get you 20 points per game, whether that's Simmons or Simons or Simmons, however you pronounce his name, Anthony. I mean, you can either get him, Shaden Sharp. We don't know what he's going to be, but hopefully he develops into a solid, even if he's a 3 or 2, whatever the ceiling is for him. We don't know much of anything. So a lot there to look for Portland, but they need one more piece, man. They do. And I think Dame is just relieved to finally have, because he had that period with CJ McCollum, but now transitioning, he just has another guy you can get the ball to with Jerami. We just need one more. There's one more piece for Portland, man.
Yeah. And as far as Jerami's performance, I don't think we're going to get anything more or less than what he was in Detroit. I mean, as far as the past year, Detroit, I think he can definitely get you, like Jeff mentioned, that 18, 19 points a game and be that number 2 guy. And I think that's what the Portland Trailblazers expect out of him. And that's what I expect out of him too. But yes, I mean, I think that they are definitely one star away from even contending. So
And again, it just goes to the question of where are they going to get that guy and how are they going to get that guy? Because, Portland just, first of all, they're not a free agency destination. They don't have the cap space. They don't have the assets. I mean, like, really the only truly tradable piece that they like they have two tradable pieces in my mind, and it's Anthony Simons and Shaedon Sharpe. But, with Shaedon Sharpe, it's like, you're not going to want to give up on that guy right away if you don't have to. Same with Simons. So,
Right.
like, and again, even if there is another star out there, I don't even know who is going to be the one that I want them to go out there and get. It just seems like a very odd situation. Now, obviously, there's guys like Kevin Durant that are out there, but listen, like, if we're being honest, Portland doesn't have anything to go get Kevin Durant, not even in like a 14 trade, because you still have to have something of value to give to someone to say that this trade's going to go through. So, obviously, Dame posted that photo of them photoshopped together, and it's a great idea. And it's a great idea as a fun little art project. But in actuality, this team, they just feel strapped. They do.
And I feel bad for Dame because of that, because the dude could be your first option, second option, well, maybe not first, but second option on a championship team right now. But he's just not.
Yeah. And again, it's a lot of it's going to come down to what kind of Dame we're getting this year as well, because it was obvious even when Dame was on the court last year, he wasn't himself. He didn't look himself ever.
No.
So
it was almost like he kind of knew that this year was just kind of go through the motions, get to it. The front office will try to figure this thing out next year. Look, get these younger players developed, to get some of these guys ready to kind of make their next step, because that's what we're not looking at, I guess, or not necessarily. Not that we're not looking at it, but we don't really know what to expect from some of these guys who could be ready to take a next step. But they still, to everybody's point on this panel, they need a certified bucket getter. I just don't know what you get. Like, do you bring in another guard? I don't know how well another solid bucket getting guard is with,
because isn't that just the Dame CJ thing that you just went through? Like, it almost feels like it has to be a wing, but it's like there's like, good luck finding a dynamic scoring wing that's just going to be available on the market.
Right. I was going to say Ingram, but no way. But I think,
but that type of guy though, like that's exactly the type of guy. Like if Brandon Ingram's in Portland, that's
bro,
a
the
team
defense would be crazy.
Yeah. But Joseph Nurkic too, I think, has some trade value. I don't think enough trade value to get you an Ingram style player, but at least something to move him in hard or something like that to get.
Well, the difficult thing with Jusuf Nurkic is, like, if you look at like the totality of his career, this guy's missed a lot of games, and they just signed him to another contract extension. And so, I think he's a guy that like can be like a solid player, but I mean, it always just feels like every other year, it's like, oh, well, if only Nurkic was healthy. It always just feels like he's never available. And so I get the re-signing in the sense that if he is available, he's a solid contributor. He's a good player, but I just, again, if that's one of your core cornerstone pieces, this just feels like the LeBron Cleveland Cavaliers team that went to the finals back in 07, 08, but not nearly as high of a ceiling. Yes, that's where it is. So,
hey, all hope for Chauncey though. Man, I was on that train. I always wanted Chauncey to coach the Detroit Pistons, but right now he's in Portland. I'm rooting for him, man. I think if you can replicate somewhat of Dallas and what they're doing with Luka Doncic, I know they're different players because Luka, the playmaker he is, like, he can run your entire offense. But if you can surround Dame with like you started with Jerami Grant, get some more pieces, they can be what Portland was before, just getting into the playoffs, losing in the second, third round, whatever it is in the conference finals some years. But that's what's difficult, man. Shout out to Troy Weaver, because if you're building in a market like Portland, I mean, Dame is every Pistons fan's biggest fear with Cade. Like, having a guy in a bad market that you're winning, but you're not winning championships, and then Dame's like 1 foot in, 1 foot out.
Right.
So it just kind of puts into perspective like how much we should appreciate Troy, because it's to build the right way, knowing what market you're in is so important.
Well,
I got my Batman Kool-Aid cup. Bro, don't give up on your dreams and your hopes with Chauncey Billups. You said it's the incubation season, right? He's just getting ready out there on the West Coast.
Yeah, they're priming him to come back home. That's all that is. He's getting his reps, and he's
Detroit
taking
Kool-Aid.
his L.
I'll have some of that, man.
Imagine winning a championship with Chauncey Billups as our head coach. That just gives
Dude.
you.
If that happens, I will legitimately cry, and I don't
Man,
care.
listen,
I'll
all
see
I'm
a grown man
saying,
cry.
listen, all I'm saying is I'm just thinking about a mentoring relationship between Chauncey and Cade Cunningham,
Yeah.
and
Ooh,
That's
Rashid-
better than
hey,
J.
hey,
Kidd.
hey, hey.
Zeke is around too.
It's better
Rashid,
than J. Kidd.
Rashid assistant. Rashid as an assistant.
Yeah.
Hold on.
oh
I'm just
yeah,
sprinkling that on
Look at
there.
this shot.
Yeah.
Rashid as an assistant. Come on, talking to Duran and them boys, Bart Bagley, Isaiah
Oh.
Stu. Oh my
man, we
God.
got
Oh,
we
the
got
dunk
some.
everything crew.
Man, you know what's
Yes,
funny, by the
sir.
way? You know what's something I didn't even realize? So, all this time we were talking about like Jabari Smith Jr. What player were we comparing him to the most? Rashard Lewis,
Yeah.
Ooh.
who's one of our assistant coaches in Detroit right now. Rashard Lewis. Imagine if Jabari Smith Jr. landed in Detroit and was with Rashard Lewis literally from day one. That would have been too good to
That
be
would've
I
been
true.
loved Rashard Lewis.
Yeah, so do I, man. He was a good
so
piece on that
versatile.
Magic team. He was a
Yeah.
good piece on that Magic team. That
And
Every
I
team
love
could use
having
a
him.
Rashard
Headaches as
Lewis.
a Pistons fan. I hated him. It's like he's so good. He can do everything. There
Dude,
weren't many
He was
players
a
like
he
that.
was a straight out of a high school guy too. He did that high school leap.
yeah. Yeah.
Hey
It's-
man, shout out to Rashard Lewis, man.
Yeah, kind
Seattle.
of like kind of similar to Rashid in the sense that like because even though I think that quote about like what Sheed would have been in the modern NBA, I think that was taken a little out of context and all over the place a little bit too far. I think the sentiment of guys like Rashid and Rashard Lewis would in this modern NBA, they would have feasted. They would have feasted. Man.
Mhm.
Antoine Jameson too. Don't forget Antoine Jameson. He was a
Yes,
guy
sir.
who hit that mid range.
Yeah.
Mhm. Mhm.
Antoine Jameson, man. Yo, and by the time he was with the Cavs, it was just
Mhm.
like, goodness, you're still kind of good, bro.
Yeah. But peak Wizards, man. The Wizards, Antoine Jameson was fun.
Man, and then he had to go team up with frickin' Zydrunas Ilgauskas. That's
Yeah.
a whole.
Hey, we talked about him last podcast.
Biggie,
We
boy,
don't need
Big
round
Z.
two.
Big
You
Z,
don't
that's
need a
legendary
Big Z
moment,
card.
man.
We did our list of we did our Mount Rushmore of worst players that have their numbers retired in the NBA, and I was like, how in the hell is Zydrunas Ilgauskas?
Listen, y'all don't
Man.
understand, y'all. For years, I would literally get on Twitter and just start going at like LeBron fans. And one of the things I would use to say that LeBron had help, and it was always like fun and games for me, but they would go crazy. I'd be like, no, man, he did play with all-stars early in his career. They're like, who? I was like, Mo Williams and Z. They were like,
Talk about a
Dude.
big three right there. Mo Williams, LeBron James, Zydrunas Ilgauskas, the best big three LeBron's had in his career.
That's like a big 1.5 because those two are quarters.
Dude, I remember playing 2K back in the day and using Ilgauskas, using the 2007 Cavs and wondering, who in the hell is this guy? Who the fuck is this guy?
Who the
Who
fuck
the
is
fuck?
that guy?
And then
Who the
now
fuck is that?
resuming forward, I'm like, man, like LeBron really did that Boobie Gibson and the boys, man. He's about that. He's about that.
freaking Boobie Gibson, dog. I hate Boobie Gibson. I love him like as a person, but just as a basketball player, it's like,
Yeah.
man.
And wasn't
31
Eric
points?
Snow on that team? Michigan's big guy? Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm crying, man.
How many
Oh,
threes
man.
did Boobie Gibson hit against the Pistons? Like everyone makes something about that 25 straight points, but does anybody realize that if Boobie Gibson just hits one less three, we win the game? Goodness,
And
man.
probably go to the finals.
Yeah.
Oh,
Man,
yeah, I don't
Boobie
wanna-
Gibson is the reason we didn't go on a three-peat to the finals, guys.
Boobie.
And I think we just killed Kool-Aid with that fact.
Man, our
That's the series
conversation-
that just it haunts me, dog. That one, Vince Ellis
gosh,
from
guys,
you know
our
from the
conversation was
Pistons
so
contract, they'll
titillating.
tell you.
Anyway,
Titillating.
Boobie Gibson, titillating. Anyway, guys, before we get to one of our favorite segments of the show and start wrapping up, we do got to talk about as well. LeBron James, for the first time in over 10 years since the NBA lockout, played his first game in the Drew League, and he teamed up with DeMar DeRozan. They ultimately won by 2 points. LeBron had 41 points. He went 2 of 13 from beyond the arc. But overall, I mean, he looked like LeBron.
Mhm.
And so, first of all, I kind of want to start with this. what was your guys' takeaway from his performance in the Drew League, and what kind of message do you think LeBron was trying to send? Because I mean, let's not kid ourselves, right? I mean, LeBron's not stupid. If LeBron's showing up in the public eye, he's doing it for a reason, right? And I just, to me, as much as LeBron loves the game of hoops, he doesn't seem like the type of guy that's going to show up to the Drew League at this point for the love of the game. So I want to know what your guys' thoughts were, and what was your takeaway from seeing LeBron's appearance at the Drew League?
What's that saying? Like, the reports of my demise have been greatly over exaggerated. He looked spry and young, dog. He looked like, look at my legs. Like, I've stepped. Hey, Jeff, we went to go hoop and we were good for the first 3 games, bro. But our legs were dead by like game 3. LeBron was hooping and looking like y'all don't understand, like a warning. That's what
looked like a mid-season form, man.
It looked like a warning. I get it's a Drew League, but for players of LeBron's ilk, for his age, for people saying he's fallen off, I don't think people understand in that hot environment and all of that type of stuff. People crowded on top of people. That's basketball. If you played in any or been in any gym like that, you understand. That's pinnacle there. That's peak, man, as it relates to certain aspects of the game. So I think it was more or less LeBron. He does this. He'll go and start working out and posting the videos like, almost like a warning shot. So that's what I think it is, letting people know he's really taking this next season serious. That's what I believe it is.
Yeah, as far as my first initial thoughts, nothing at first as far as his performance. I mean, it's LeBron James. He played like he was LeBron James. So nothing really caught my eye there or caught me off guard with his performance, but I would agree with Kool-Aid. And I think the big thing, what I thought was what I saw from the game as far as making a statement was just the fact that he's there. And I feel like the ease that he was able to do a lot of that stuff. And even when you get the ball in the post and he did a little turnaround, Jay, I mean, that's classic LeBron. And I think something that we don't talk about enough is even this past season, this 2021, 2022 season, guys, LeBron James, if the league wasn't so deep with a Joker, a Giannis, a John Morant, a Luka, whatever, Jason Tatum, if the league didn't have that much of a depth with young guys, you could make an amazing argument for LeBron James, who should have been the MVP this past year. Seriously. I mean, he looked like 2014-15, right? When he did the coming home tour with the Cavs, he really looked like that. I mean, the guy doesn't age, guys. He's playing some of his best basketball still. So I still think he's a top 5 player. I really do, guys. No doubt.
Yeah, and you know LeBron too, man. He's smart. Like, he sees this is an every year thing as of late too. He hears the conversations, washed, and then he gets to this point in the offseason. He's like, all right. And like Troy said, I'm not going to overreact. I mean, it's the second, arguably, and in my opinion, he's the second greatest basketball player of all time, playing against guys in the Drew League. And so I'm not going to take a ton from it, but what it told me was it's a legacy thing. And before everybody freaks out, like, he played in Drew League. Why is that a legacy thing? You remember when Kobe played at Rucker Park? Like, these things matter. As KD at Rucker Park as well, he had like 50. Like, as much as you can say, well, it's KD against randos.
They love basketball.
Exactly. They love basketball. And LeBron's getting to the point in age where he's proving to people, like, yes, I'm 20 plus years in this thing, but guess what? I haven't lost a step, and he's out there. You could tell a lot of his game was on the perimeter. It's almost like a middle finger to people at the end. Like, hey, I'm out here just cooking. Regardless of who it's against, you got to appreciate the love of basketball, man. Through 20 plus years of playing in the NBA, being the guy, being under the microscope, he still has the appreciation for the game, man. So I can respect that.
Yeah.
That's what I appreciate out of him.
Yeah. No, that's great. But guys, he's got to be saying something to the Lakers with this. I mean, he has an extension coming up that he's eligible for to sign in August. The team is in a position where, with LeBron, their window of winning a title is shrinking rapidly by the day. It almost seems to me like LeBron's coming out here and saying, hey, this is what I can do. This is who I am. This is where I'm at in my career. This is where we can go. Let's go make a run at this thing, man. I'm ready. I feel great. I'm in great condition.
And something we saw too in the past with LeBron is how many long seasons did he have? How many finals losses has he had, as far as what that does on your body playing till mid-June? And guess what? He's had 1 year with not making the playoffs, but basically 2 years in a row with getting out in April / early May of not playing basketball. So this is the first time in his career, really, besides his rookie year and his second year, that he's been able to have a break from playing.
Yeah.
I mean, I think someone did the math once, and they did all his playoffs combined, and it's like 3 full NBA seasons. Think about that.
Yeah.
And now Booby Gibson playoff runs in there too, man.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, man!
Oh goodness,
This is the official Booby Gibson podcast of the National Basketball Association. But
I had to throw.
Oh man,
like what was even his first name? I forget. Was it like Daniel or something?
Daniel.
Yeah.
My goodness.
At least it was before Booby came in. But with that, oh my gosh! But with that, man, it's time. We always got to end an episode the right way. There's no better way than talking from Mount Rushmore. And with that, Troy, last week was one of our favorite ones that we had ever done. That jersey retirement rafter conversation was one of the funniest. That was fantastic. So I'm excited to hear what you got planned for us this week.
Yeah. I've been kind of crisscrossing, going back and forth with starting a 5-part series. We're definitely going to get to the 5-part series, but I want to wait till next week, I think, with doing that, because of our special guest today, who's been with the team for so long, following with Kool-Aid. And I know I wanted to do this one a few weeks ago, but I don't think we ended up. But correct me if I'm wrong, but I want to have a conversation about something that we as Pistons fans want to avoid at all costs. And that is the 2005 NBA Finals. What a tragic series, right? Going so close, getting so close.
I'm sorry. You're like, I want to honor a good guest, and you bring up when we lost the finals?
But hey, we're a Pistons podcast, Sean, which means that we need to talk about the good, the bad, and the ugly of this team. And we got a guy who lived it, who is putting a Chauncey Billups jersey over his head. That's what we need to talk about, guys. Because here's the thing. We're not going to find any other podcast that's talking about the stuff that we are with this right now. Pistons fans, there are many people who are young who did not see this finals, like myself. I'm going to let our man Kool-Aid lead this one. So tell us about winning Game 7. We'll start with the good. We'll start about winning Game 7 in Miami, winning the Eastern Conference Finals. What was the matching looking at going against San Antonio? What was the media's expectations? What were people in Detroit's expectations? And going into that Game 1 in San Antonio?
Yeah, I think people were confident going into that Game 1. I remember watching the away games at Chene Park, now called the Aretha Franklin Amphitheater, right off the Detroit River. And I remember watching the games at Auburn Hills. And what's interesting is you would think after we beat LA that fans would be like, yeah, we're definitely taking this. But there was a different respect for San Antonio and what they meant and their players and all that. Like with LA, we went into the series saying, why are people disrespecting us? We really have a chance. And we knew that. We knew that there was a little bit difference between the type of team San Antonio was and what LA was. So I could tell fans were they were a little on edge. But when we got kind of the upper edge, when it looked like, we can hang with them, fans kind of settled into, yeah, we're the Pistons, and it sucked. I don't know. I was 17 during that, 17, 18 during that finals. I think it was turning 19 that year. Yeah. I don't know if I was just young, but I remember the refs in games like 5, 6, 7, just absolutely being a pain, being a bear towards Detroit. It just seemed like we couldn't get to the foul line at all. That's from the fan in me felt like that. It felt like there were some phantom calls that just seemed to haunt Detroit in these finals over the years. And ultimately they lost in 7 hard fought games, man. Like, and as I've gotten older, I've learned to just say, you know what? I have to respect what they did in 04 and 05, regardless of what young me thought of fouls or this or that. Man, they battled hard. They fought hard. You know, the championship in 04 makes it a little bit easier to sit here and say that, knowing that those guys had what it took. They had what it, you know, they had what they needed, man. They had what it took to be champions in 05, and it just didn't work out. It's not like they pooped it away. It wasn't like that, man. It was just tip the cap to you guys, you know, to the Spurs. It was a team that literally played the right way. So,
and I think going down 0-2, I was gonna say going down 0-2, and then, you know, like, again, it's like, man, is this series over? What's going on? And then and game 1 and 2, from what I understand, weren't really close. And then to win game 3 and 4 at home, also not very close, but now you're the one with the W. And Ben Wallace having probably his peak performance as far as series in his whole time in Detroit. And then you're so close in game 5 too. And then obviously we know what happened with Robert Horry hitting that shot. But then you go into game 6, expecting to lose, I would assume. And then you get an amazing Chauncey Billups performance. You have your classic Detroit win, game 6 in San Antonio. What were the vibes thinking now going into game 7, Kool-Aid?
It was still the same. This is the Spurs. You know, we saw what happened the first 2 games. Yeah, we were confident about what could happen. And I believe everybody gave the Pistons a great chance, you know, as Pistons fans to win. At least I did. But as Pistons fans, especially during that time, you got to think about it, man. We went from dead era to Grant Hill era to, you know, whoa, we got a championship that nobody saw happening at all. There were teams that we knew, oh, we're losing to the Pacers. Oh, we're going to lose to the Nets. Then, oh, we won a championship. By the time we got to the Lakers, we were punting them in the mouth, man. But going into that game 7, it was, like I said, again, that same feeling that we started the series with, like, what's going to happen? And I was watching it with a friend who is from the Virgin Islands, like the same island as Tim Duncan. And he was always repping the Pistons with me until this series. And I remember when Robert Horry hit that shot and he started cheering. I swear, for a long time we weren't friends. We went back to college. Bro, take your stuff, find a new dorm room, bro. Like it was horrible.
I think for me, when I look back on this series, I think one thing about that 04 Pistons finals run that we had that was really an advantage was how connected as a team the Pistons were and how divided the Lakers were on that side. And that's one thing that was not a factor in that Spurs series whatsoever. Talk about, you know, I think those are 2 of the most well-rounded, 2, you know, just like best units that were in the league at that time. I remember one memory that sticks out for the 05 NBA Finals is the official song of that finals. Oh, this is it now. Everybody get down. This is how a heart breaks. Kool-Aid, you know what I'm talking about?
Yeah. It's taking me right back, bro.
I used to ring right in my ear each and every game, man. They come out in that sick trophy statue and do the starting lineups right before, and it was just those matches were just a dogfight. I mean,
you know what? I'm glad that Troy actually talked about it. It's painful to think about, but honestly, these are the things that validate that era of basketball. They weren't just a one-off. And they could have had a second championship, and probably if they have that, they probably sign Ben Wallace, and they probably have a great opportunity to win a third. But things didn't go that way. That doesn't mean that team should be diminished in any way, shape, or form, because they went up against one of the greatest players and greatest assemblies of talents and coaches of all time. Coaches. That is not just Greg Popovich. That whole organization during that time was just on one.
And they met the challenge. When they were down 0-2, they went home. They got the job done. When San Antonio won on their home court, they went right back to San Antonio and responded in game 6 and did the exact same thing. So, you know, like, it wasn't like this finals performance where like the Pistons let it slip out of their fingers or anything like that. This was truly one of those gritty, grindy finals series that we saw in the mid 2000s that ultimately the Spurs were just the more complete team. So, I mean, there's a legitimate case, you know, that both teams could have won that championship fair and square. And I think, you know, like Kool-Aid said, man, it's just hard to look at that finals and be disappointed in what they did because they fought so hard and they got so close at that repeat. So
especially
go ahead, Jeff.
Especially considering that's where we want to ultimately be right now.
Yeah.
Like you can appreciate
Yeah.
see, greatness is great when you're living in it. Like, you know, teams like Golden State or other fan bases said they're like, yeah, we're winning, we're on top of the world. But then there's that drought. There's those years where you appreciate the Eastern Conference Finals runs, you know, the game sevens in the NBA Finals against Hall of Famers, multiple Hall of Fame head coach, and 3 Hall of Famers on the team as well. So that's what I appreciate you take from it. Like, yes, I might have been 5-6 years old at the time, but what I can take away is I've seen greatness in Detroit for my lifetime. There's a stretch there. It can be duplicated. They paved the way, man. They really did. Despite how it ended, I know you could say, well, Rashid left him open. You can have this whole conversation, but that's the narrative. But when you dive into it, man, you appreciate it.
Yeah. And listen, man, at the end of the day, it was a hell of a shot. I mean, like we already know that shot. It burns in your head, but I mean, it was quintessential Spurs. It just was. I grew up hating that team, but it's hard to not like. I grew up like despising that team because I had to face them in the final. That was like my least favorite team for years. But growing up and maturing, I can't hate that team. I can only respect and admire the hell out of them because you know, like I have my problems with the New England Patriots. You can say whatever you will about that franchise, but like one team that has never been in question as far as the integrity of the game, the ability to play basketball and win the right way, it's the Spurs. It's always been the Spurs.
Absolutely.
So yeah. And there's and they even had some incredible role players and deep guys in their bench even at that time too. People talk about, you know, like Tim Duncan and Tony Parker and all those guys, but I mean it's the Bruce Bowens, it's the Manu Ginobilis, it's the role players that really made that team go around. So made that team, and I mean Robert Horry. So but with that, go ahead, Jeff.
This is the team that took down LeBron and Boobie Gibson as well. I guess I got to tie it all back. So
Sweep them, guys. Sweep them. Swept.
These were the Boobie Gibson killers. We're talking about that. We're putting the Pistons in vain. These guys took down the Giants, man.
Boobie killers, really, Sean?
That don't make me actually like Boobie Gibson by the end of this podcast, bro.
Yeah, right. See, I had to throw another one out there. It all ties together, guys. It's a conversation.
Wrapping in a beautiful bow at the end. That's what I love. Well, hey, Kool-Aid, you know you're my guy. Thank you so much for being here, man. Thank you for
the invite, fellas. I appreciate it.
Bro. Oh yeah, we love you, man.
Dude, we got to make this happen more often, dude. It's just good to sit down and chat and talk hoops. If people don't know, be sure to subscribe and head over to We're Pistons so you can see more of my guy Kool-Aid there and all the awesome content that we're producing over there. We're super proud of everything we got going on at We're Pistons, and we're just getting started. So a lot of exciting stuff coming down the road. But with that, also be sure you're following my guy Troy at TroySergey44, my guy Jeff at Jeff I-Frady, and myself at Sean Half Court. And that's going to do it for today, folks. We want to thank you so much for listening, and we will catch you guys next time from Half Court. Be sure to subscribe.
Hey.